Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and Lacrosse's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at rainbowsoul.show.
Did it say recording?
No, it didn't say anything. Usually I have to dismiss. Welcome. Welcome to Rainbow Soul Soulstrology Forecast for June 19th to the 25th. I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm an astrologer and a psychic and a medium. I'm one of your astrologers here this week, and you can learn more about me at my website, and it's Divine and Androgen, which you can find in the description of this podcast.
Hi there, I'm Bright Hawk. You can learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com. I'm a musician, a storyteller, author of the book The Dancing Hippo, beautifully illustrated, award-winning story about resilience. The ebook is a lot of fun with a lot of music. And
Cross Ortiz, and I made the color journal, the Fool's Journey color journal. That is one out of a series of 5. I've only got 3 done, so be patient. I'm getting the rest of them done.
That's the second one right there.
Yep, the wands. And then there is Cruising with the Cups. I try to put a little swish with
the cups.
Yeah, Cruising with the Cups.
Cool.
You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And yeah, that's me. Jack of all trades, master of none, professional student. Boom, done.
Fantastic. So, as we continue on today, I want to welcome everyone to just kind of take a minute to take a breath, because by the time you're listening to this, you could be having some intense moments. So I'm just going to invite you to take a few deep breaths. Allow yourself to become nice and calm. Feel your heart centered. Feel your feet on the floor, on the ground. Feel your body in your seat. And feel the breath move gently in and out of your lungs. And take this moment to imagine yourself under the night sky. This time, as you look up into the sky, a planet kind of looked like a star at first, but you realize it's a planet because it just glows bright. It starts to move closer and closer to you. And as you take a look at this planet, you recognize that it has rings around it. And it is the planet Saturn. And Saturn's rings seem to be holding steady as they go. as the planet begins to spin backwards, also known as retrograde. And as Saturn appears to be going backwards to us as we stare at the planet, we can feel all of its structures, the system in which it implants within our hearts and our souls, the commitments, all of the things we commit to, or all of the things that are part of our heart and soul, the things that drive us, inspire us, keep us going. And as it's going backwards, we start to recognize that that's exactly what Saturn wants us to do. Wants us to revisit our responsibilities, reevaluate our commitments, reassess our system. And as we enter Saturn moving backwards in the sky, we start to recognize what we need in our heart and our soul. What do we really need? And that's the question Saturn is actually asking. What is it you really need? What fills your heart and soul? What helps you feel fulfilled? You have plenty of time to think about it. Plenty of time to explore those options as Saturn slowly moves back up into the night sky away from you, leaving you with plenty to reevaluate, to reassess, and to revisit within your own heart and mind. As we allow Saturn to move away from us and backwards, we take the challenge of Saturn and accept that question in our hearts. And by answering these questions, we can better serve ourselves and better serve the world. As you come back into yourself, put your hand on your heart and feel that love in your heart. And always promise your heart that you will always follow it, because that's what's important. Follow love. Take a deep breath. Come back into your body. Leave your toes wiggling on the floor. And be centered in your body, in the here and now. Thank you, Bright Hawk. We appreciate you.
Yes,
We
yes,
appreciate
yes.
you playing, taking us for a little journey. All right. So, my friends, if you haven't figured it out, Saturn's in retrograde. I meant to mention it last week, and I didn't note it down, and then therefore I didn't mention it. But it's happening like right at the end of the week anyway. So, so it's probably, by the time you're listening to this, it's just happened. Just happened. So like the 17th is the day it actually stations, and the 18th it goes backwards. So by the 19th, it's chugging backwards.
I
So
actually have a question on that. Can you
go for it.
feel it when it's slowing down? You know,
Sometimes.
because I'm thinking, like, with how everything's been going, it's like you feel that slow and then stop and then back, you know. So, I mean, if you have a strong Saturn placement, I would say.
I think it would also depend on where Saturn is in the sky in relation to your chart.
Right.
So Bright Hawk will probably feel it really intensely because Saturn's pretty much dancing on her Saturn right now, right? So she'll probably feel it the most out of the three of us, okay?
Right.
And
So it's just passed over my Saturn. Now it's going to go retrograde. So it's going to pass over it a second time. And then when it goes direct, it'll pass over it again a third time.
Oof. Oof.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
big Daddy's moving.
and the interesting thing is that Bright Hawk, and so you should also look at the aspects. So when you look at Bright Hawk's chart, you can see that her Saturn is part of something we call a yod, which is her destiny. It's who she's supposed to be. And so if Saturn, and it's at the foundation, a yod is kind of 2 points that come up and point to one thing. And Saturn's down here at one of the points, and it points to her moon in Leo.
And my sun is the other base, so it's not like it's weak. It's very strong.
It's very
and it
strong.
points to my 0-degree Leo moon.
Yeah.
Which this moon is going to be passing through this week. We have
And Leo's a busy place this week
God.
anyway.
mega stellium.
Yeah, so Saturn is, so wherever Saturn is in your chart, you should look at what's in Pisces for you. So if Saturn's not there, that's where Saturn is right now. It's in Pisces. It's in the early degrees of Pisces. It got to 7 degrees today, and then it will, today that we're recording is the 15th, and then it will move backwards, starting at like about 8 degrees. It will stop and then move backwards, and it will move all the way back to 0 degrees. And it will take till November to get there. And then
Wow.
November, it will stop and then go forward again. And you will likely, depending on your placements and how it affects you, of course it'll affect Bright Hawks and her destiny and her yod and how she feels called. But for somebody like me, it's passing over my asteroids in the 5th house. And the 5th house is about creativity and things that I've created, including children, and also romance and things like that. But it's moving over top of my Lilith, which is also very independent, and I'm going to do it myself, sort of headstrong. And then there's a couple other asteroids in that house, but there's no other strong planets there. And you should look in what aspects is it to your Saturn or other strong planets? So like if Saturn is squaring your sun or something like that, you could be having a rough time, like it's
I'm
just
gonna have
gonna
to look because I'm feeling some stuff. So I'm gonna have to take a look at mine and see where my
right.
transits are because I'm like, oof, this is really oof. Because I
And
know in my
Yeah,
birth, it's the point of the yud.
oh, it's the point
On
of
my
the
birth, it's all pointing to Saturn on mine.
where's Saturn?
oh,
Saturn is in the eighth house.
In what sign?
I think Aquarius. I'm not sure.
No, it
I
just
don't
came from
recall.
Aquarius. Did you just
Okay,
do
then
returns?
no. Then it's going into uh,
Aries,
I
Pisces.
think so. Aries, yes.
Yeah. So, and Aries eighth house would make sense with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And so if it's pointing to that, it's gonna light that up, but it's still 30 degrees away from that. So what you want to look at, the best way to find it for anyone to find it is to look at what is any planets that are 0 to 8 degrees, even more like 28, 29 degrees, just because that'll be when it gets back to 0, it will be sort of pushing up against anything that's 28, 29 degrees. And then what you do is you find Pisces in your chart and then you count 30 degrees from there. 30, 60, 90, right? And so I know that Aries is next to Pisces, so that means your Saturn is only 30 degrees away from the Saturn right now.
Yeah.
But if there's anything past that, which I'm sure there is, like in Libra, for instance, it could be 100 and some degrees. And whatever the degrees is that it's away, that's the aspect that it is.
Hmm.
So you can count it, you could be 30, 60, 90. And there's aspects of squaring and trines. And those are the ones. Sextile is pretty easy or simple.
flowing energy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I mean by that.
And a square is a little bit more challenging, and you can always look at a astrology chart. But if you're just trying to figure it out for yourself, that's what you want to do, is you want to find out where 0 degrees is, and then count how far away from that is from 0 degrees Pisces,
Okay.
because that's pretty much where Saturn is. It'll be 8 degrees this week, and then it will go backwards.
Yeah, this week, I would say overall this week, wherever you have strong Leo placements and strong Taurus placements, because Jupiter is now in Taurus, both of those have major squares going on. There's a lot of planets on both sides, and so it's just going to change as the days go by about which planets are squaring each other between Leo and Taurus. So if you've got anything in those places, that stuff's lighting up. That's everybody's feeling.
For
Definitely
sure.
Everybody's feeling that.
Everybody's going to be
Of
feeling
course,
it.
have Pluto going backwards. Pluto's now sitting at 29 degrees Capricorn, still real slow moving, And of course, as we come into this report, we started off June 18th with a new moon, right? So, and that new moon, of course, was in Gemini. So now as we come into the week of the 19th, well, the moon comes home to Cancer because the moon rules Cancer. And so you have that feeling of, I've come home, have a nice hot bath, get yourself comfortable, get your favorite snacks, sweet, whatever. Yeah, you feel good when you're home, right? So the moon is just beginning to wax into a crescent. On the 19th, it's a square to Chiron, but it's a sextile to Uranus. And there's all week this energy of this stellium in Leo, which includes all of the females
except for
asteroids.
Mars. Mars is completely surrounded.
Right. Mars is surrounded by Lilith, Pallas Athena, and Venus, right? That is kind of hilarious. all in Leo. So you've got that fiery energy of Leo. Can be a
fiery
little...
feminine. You know, I was just reading about these asteroids, particularly Pallas Athena. And Pallas Athena is about wisdom and strategy. She is also how you take in wisdom and how you are likely to defend yourself, which I thought was interesting, because wherever your Pallas Athena looks like a little bit of a diamond with a plus sign. It's a very effeminate sign. It's a very strong effeminate sign, but it is pretty much how you defend yourself, or how you feel you have to defend yourself. And whatever it's aspecting will show. And I was looking at mine, and mine is squaring my Uranus on my ascendant. So that totally, I was like, oh, I'm always defending my revolutionary thinking, because I tend to think ahead. Like, I'm non-binary, and people have to think forward to be able to get out of the binary, right? And so I constantly feel like I have to defend that. And so take a look at your Pallas Athena. But the fact that Pallas Athena is in Leo, that makes me feel like, is she going to be like protecting her nobility, maybe her ego, maybe her, like, you know, like she's going to be big, you know? That's what it makes me think, because Leo tends to be a big energy.
Mm-hmm. Don't I know it? Roar.
And the funny thing that I noticed about this week, even though we have Saturn in retrograde, we have a T-square going on, but there's this grand trine in Earth all week long.
And it's supposed to be a D. It's a grand trine.
Oh,
a grand trine. But I guess we have grants on the brain because our nonprofit is applying for them. So
it's a grand trine in Earth with Uranus and Vesta up there at the top. And, you know, I was reading about Vesta as well. She was the other asteroid I was reading about. And Vesta is very, what are you dedicated to? And it's about you, not what you're dedicated to, but what you are dedicated to that makes you feel good. So what feeds your soul? Okay. So like maybe for you, lacrosse, maybe it might be drag. I don't know, you know, or maybe it might be spirit animals. Right. Okay. And so those kinds of things, or learning. Right. And so I wouldn't be surprised if your Vesta was in the 6th house. Right. Because that's what represent 6th house rules small animals and pets and things like that. So Vesta is very much, mine's in the 5th house, and so it's very much like, you know, what house is it in? What sign is it in? You want to look at that. But look at this, as it's at the top of the trine with Uranus. They're almost conjunct, and they're at the top of the trine, right? And they're with Pluto and Ceres. And it's almost as if Uranus makes me, every time I go right to the queer planet, and I go right to the gender revolution, just because Uranus feels like it's ruling the gender revolution. And here on Rainbow Soul, we like to talk about the gender revolution. And I think this week, considering we're in Pride, it's asking us to show what we're really dedicated to. Are queers really a bunch of perverts? Of course we're not, right? And so, you know, Pride, although there have been prides where people show up in kink clothing or wear things that represent their kink. And frankly, I don't care. It doesn't offend me. But I can see if you had a little kid, you wouldn't necessarily want them exposed to those kinds of things when they're 8 years old. Right. And so we should try to make them a little bit more subtle, because we do, I think, as queers in general, we represent diversity. And we want everyone to feel comfortable at Pride, right? Not just people that are kinksters. And not everybody's comfortable with kinksters. You know, I don't really care, but some people are, you know, uncomfortable even though they're an adult. So I think that might be what we're asking each other to do in Pride. because now it's become so damn important because there's people watching us, people accusing us of being perverts or whatever. And so I feel like we also have to become defensive. So I feel like that grand trine will set us up, all of us, to present in pride in the most diverse way and really stand for what we actually are dedicated to, which is diversity. And I think whether you're a Kingster or not, you would agree to that. So I think that's what that grand trine will influence, at least in the LGBTQ community. And the T-square, I was looking at the T-square, which is like Neptune across from Ceres, which I've mentioned a few times, which Neptune is in opposition to Ceres, which means take care of yourself. You're going to have a hard time doing psychic readings or tapping into your dreams or things like that. So that continues to be there, but now they're both squaring Juno and the sun. So they're asking us, are you dedicated to that dream? Is that really what you're about? Are you really wanting to do this? Because that's pretty much what Juno is about too. It's about dedication and what you're dedicated to. So, and those will probably pretty much be the theme for the week.
Yeah, especially Neptune. It just doesn't move very quickly at all. It just sort of sits there.
And hasn't it been like opposites of Ceres forever?
And Pluto's been for opposite my moon, particularly for what feels like forever. So, yeah.
Yeah, Pluto and Neptune both move pretty slow.
Yeah. And yeah, once you throw Neptune in, it's a kite.
Yeah, the kite forms even stronger.
Yeah,
I think
tomorrow. Why don't we go
tomorrow?
To Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Oh, the mystic rectangle comes up this time. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Tuesday, the moon moves into that position where it's opposing Pluto. It's conjunct my moon. And it's trining Vesta and Ceres. It's it's in a sextile to Vesta and Ceres and a trine to Neptune. And then with that square, the North Node, you have that Pluto and the moon opposition. And then the top of the square is the North Node. So that T-square, and then, we've been seeing a lot of T-squares almost every week. And then at 29 and 28 degrees, you have what ultimately is called a castle. It looks like a pentagram. And it involves all the signs that I just talked about. Pluto, Vesta, Ceres, Neptune, the North Node, the moon. And, there's, as it moves, it becomes a castle, it becomes a mystic rectangle, it becomes a cradle. All of these terms, what do they mean exactly?
Well, I know the castle has a lot to do with foundation, but I noticed that this mystic rectangle really lights up too. See how strong it is in the sky there? It's easy to find a rectangle in that image.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's essentially how this software works, is the stronger it is, the darker it is, okay? The stronger the influence, the darker the lines. And so I think even a castle feeds into a rectangle, because a castle is like a foundation, right? At first it's a castle, and then what she's saying is then the moon moves and then it forms a mystic rectangle. And the mystic rectangle is about, okay, that's your foundation, but this is your destiny. This is what I've asked you to do. Hard or easy, please do this. And so sometimes we can find that on days that mystic rectangles come up, that we're really living what we were called to do, or we end up doing what we're called to do. And that could be as simple as, I went on my lunch break and I ended up counseling my friend for a half an hour. Yeah, well, maybe you weren't meant to work at Starbucks. Maybe you're supposed to be a counselor, okay, my friend? Just saying. And those kinds of things our realizations. And if you're paying attention to the astrology, you can go, wait a minute, today was Mystic Rectangle, and I spent the entire day doing such and such. Maybe I'm really supposed to be doing that. And that's what the Mystic Rectangle is supposed to do. It's supposed to sort of highlight what we're supposed to be doing, especially with with Neptune involved. It's about our visions and dreams. It will help you get your visions and dreams to come true. And with Pluto, it's about change and shifting. And it will just happen without any effort on your behalf. Okay, that's what a Mystic Rectangle is. It just happens. And with the moon and Neptune involved, that means it's going to be psychic. It's going to be that third eye is going to be engaged. And with Ceres, that will be about nurturing yourself and nurturing it, and maybe hopefully recognizing it. And then if it moves into the cradle later in the day, that's pretty much going to say, see, good job. And you're going to maybe feel rewarded for that conversation that you had with your friend at lunch, and you're going to feel like, maybe I should be a counselor. It does seem like it's really easy for people to talk to me, or whatever it was that you did that day. So you could start to recognize that this is probably, and that's on the 20th, right? So
yeah, and it's all those planets that are at 29 and 28 degrees. So you see the sun is at 29 degrees, Gemini. It's just about to step into Cancer. We're right on the verge of the solstice. You can see Pluto is sitting at 29 degrees. You can see going around the other side, Vesta is at 29 degrees. Ceres is at 29 degrees. So all of those pieces light up. And it's interesting because, part of it is opposition energy, but that energy usually creates some tension that sort of forces some, okay, what are we really focused on? Trying to Neptune, what are your dreams? Square to the North Node. What are you meant to do? That T-square to Pluto, right?
Yeah, that T-square has been going on all week, and it's pointing at Juno, so it's going to constantly be asking you. And then plus with Saturn involved, it's going to be like, what are your commitments? What do you want to do? What are you sure you want to be married to?
And with all the energy in Leo, know, it's got to make you happy. It's got to light you up. It's got to make you feel like.
And the interesting thing that I noticed on this particular day that you might notice on the 20th is that Saturn is going to sextile Jupiter. And so Jupiter is very much, Saturn, and it's a sextile, so it's going to be easier. So you might find, well, I kind of thought that thing was, I wasn't sure about my commitment to that, but now I see how it helps me expand. Now I see how it helps me. Jupiter is philosophical, and it's also makes things bigger and larger than life. So it could really sort of highlight a big thing about what you've been contemplating. So pay attention on the 20th about what sort of just comes into your awareness, and, pay attention to like where you were contemplating if you wanted to keep doing this thing, and then all of a sudden you see why you might still be doing it. What's a benefit of it? Especially with Jupiter. Jupiter's going to be a benefit. And Jupiter's going to say, well, you do get this, and that's pretty nice, right? And so, you're going to figure out, maybe I should be grateful for those things. And the kite that forms is with the moon, so it will only be on this day. And the kite, that's pretty much, you want to engage in, you want to try to get everything lit up, which is like Uranus and Vesta. What are you dedicated to, even if it's out of the normal, even if it's forward thinking, unusual, even if other people dismiss it. Ceres and Virgo, how is it practical? How can you engage the practicality of things? And what do you need to change? And what kind of emotions or attitudes do you need to change in order for you to proceed forward and to fly brightly. So on this day is actually a really good day, and you could have a lot of aha moments, like, oh shit, yeah, okay, well, and you could find yourself doing the Libra thing, which is, well, it is good because of this, but it sucks because of this. And so you could find yourself really weighing things, but that's really good because this day will make you aware of your blessings.
Nice. Yeah, with the moon in Cancer, there you can lean into that imaginative energy that, it can be very tenacious and very loyal, of course, because moon in Cancer is, you carry your home on your back, and so it can be very protective, sympathetic. Can also, on the challenge side, be possessive, moody, for sure.
But I usually find Cancer moons to be very you can appeal to their groundedness. If that makes sense. Like, they're not like Pisces can sometimes be emotional in a way that you can't really negotiate with. It's just everywhere. But out of all the water signs, I almost feel like Cancer is the most grounded out of the three water signs.
That's true. I think that's true. I think that's a good observation.
Yeah, they're usually reasonable.
And now, drum roll, please. Happy birthday on the 21st to the Cancers. Ta-da! Happy solstice.
Yeah, we were just talking about Cancer. So if you are a Cancer sun, or you're Cancer rising, or Cancer moon, Cancer is very much about having your house on your home, having your home on your back. And they pretty much, but I also will say Cancer really honors things like tradition. They really and I think that's what happens when you think about in late June, because we start to come up on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And I mean, are people really just celebrating? I mean, I guess some people are really celebrating the US, but most people are just like, yeah, it's a tradition. This is what I do. They don't really think about it usually. And I also find that Cancers really value education. They really value those kinds of almost kind of Capricorn but they're a little bit more watery and emotional about it.
Interesting. My dad was a Cancer, so
yeah,
I find that interesting. He definitely valued education, for sure.
Yeah,
I thought that was everybody's dad, but apparently that was absolutely my dad.
No, and they usually value respect, and they'll value elders and things like that.
Tradition, family, very family oriented.
Yeah.
Father of 7.
Yeah, my son's a Cancer rising, and he's very family oriented, right?
Yeah.
So
the other thing that happens on the 21st, because the sun is now in Cancer and the moon is moving into Leo, the moon rules Cancer and the sun rules Leo. So when they're crisscrossed like that, we call it mutual reception, which means they can switch places if they want, which is kind of cool. And it's an interesting thing. And you still, of course, have that big stellium going on in Leo. And now you have the moon squares Jupiter in Taurus. So now we're starting to have that multiple planet squares with Taurus and Leo. And it's just going to kind of ping, 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 continue on down. So it's first the moon will conjunct Mars, then Venus, then Pallas Athena, then Mercury, Lilith. Yeah. So yeah, the whole group.
I was wondering, when does the moon get down there to Pallas Athena and Lilith?
The next day,
the 22nd.
Yeah.
That's when, because Lilith on this particular day, Lilith and Pallas Athena are squaring Uranus.
Mm.
And it's in Taurus. So Uranus and Taurus, and I'm thinking about those two, and Pallas Athena is very much about wisdom and strategy and defending ourselves. And Lilith
Right.
is about independence and femininity and strength and sometimes sexuality. So so I'm just gonna say that as the moon ting 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 by the 22nd, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens at a pride or something like that, or and it could be perfectly good as long because it's a square. It's hard to say. It could be a challenge, but it could be okay, and it could very much be about like protesters and things like that. And that happens all the time in prides all the time. But if you have a pride going on, there's a lot of prides going on in June 21st.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it's
Because
kind
you
of a
still
thing.
have that T-square Pluto opposing the moon.
And so what day of the week is that? Thursday? So it'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Okay.
Yeah,
It's still the middle of the week, so we're
Yeah.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have something pride-ish going on, you know, just be aware that that might be going on, and try to take the high ground. Try to take the high ground. And also I noticed that Pluto is in conjunct Juno and the Sun. You can see that dark red line there. Pluto's down at the bottom here, and the Sun and Juno are up at the top there. They're almost on top of each other. Juno's at 29 degrees. The Sun's at 0 degrees Cancer.
What's the difference between an inconjunct and an opposition? Because they look very similar.
They are very similar, but it's about 30 degrees difference.
Oh, okay.
And an inconjunct is, it's almost like an opposition, but it's not.
Okay.
So oppositions are hard to resolve, okay? When two things are in opposition, they are hard to resolve, which Neptune and Ceres have been in opposition for months now, okay? And that's about nurturing yourself and things like that, okay? And Neptune's about your dreams and your visions and psychic abilities. But this time we're talking about Pluto, which is about death, change, power,
The ultimate
control.
transformation, right?
And Pluto is retrograde. So we might be looking at our own power, control, and it's in conjunct Juno and the Sun, which is about commitment and and the Sun usually shows us where we're headed, where we're going, and why we're going there, and what it means to us. Okay, that's why your sun sign, so whatever your birthday is your sun sign, right? So if you're a Cancer sun, you're probably the type of person that maybe has a bigger bag when you go places. You take your home with you. You have everything you need with you. And you also may respect education and things like that. And that's where you're going. That's who you are, right? Okay. And that energy with Juno, which is very much about commitment. And I find the Cancer sign, to be very committed to things. If they're committed, they're committed. It's very loyal. So it's like kind of double commitment, double like sort of wow, right? Although Juno is in Gemini. Okay. So that means it could be wavering on commitment. Do I really want to do this? And it's in conjunct Pluto, which is about power, control, change, death. Okay? And so when you think about that, an in conjunct means it's not quite solvable, but it almost is. You could resolve it, but you're probably going to have to like let something go. You're probably going to have to forget about something. You're probably going to have to forgive. It's going to be some sort of hard thing like that, even harder than a square. Okay, so a square is hard and challenging, but there can usually be some sort of compromise that comes out. But I find with inconjunct, the only way to solve it is that there's going to have to be some sort of kind of big thing that almost feels like all right, I'll give it up. And it can feel like that, especially with Pluto involved. And Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, so it could be about money. It could be about resources or something like that. This is something I really want to do, but it's going to cost that much. Okay. So, and this is really a commitment for me, but it's going to cost that much. Oh my God. Right. Okay. So that's going to be that energy of Pluto in conjunct Juno. And it will just be going on for like a day or two. And on this day, it is the strongest, which I'm pretty sure we're on the 22nd.
Yeah. And the moon just keeps moving right on over everything, you know.
And this is the 23rd or 22nd. That was the 21st. And so now the 22nd.
Then the moon goes void in Leo. And it's conjunct. It's going to be conjuncting. So it's still conjuncting Mars, Venus, Pallas Athena, and pretty soon Lilith.
It's conjuncting Lilith here in the afternoon at 11 a.m.
It's only 1 degree off. A degree off, yeah, for sure. You just can only put so many things in one little spot.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So yeah, ping, 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 ping.
And
ping.
it's all squaring Uranus in Taurus. So what is an old way that we've always done things? We might have to find a new strategy. And this is a square, right? So it's not quite an inconjunct. It's not an opposition. It's more like, okay, well, we do want everyone to feel welcomed at Pride, so we don't have to walk around with our whips and chains hanging around our necks, okay? You know. So, like, it might feel like that, and that's okay. And that's essentially what Uranus and Taurus is it's going to consistently say, what do you need to change? What needs to revolutionize? What are you going to do? You know, how are you going to change this? And it's usually kind of a smack in the face a little bit. So, and I think the LGBTQ community has pretty much been smacked around. And so I think we can mostly feel it. And, I just think that that's pretty much what's going to be happening, but it could also have to do in our personal lives with like money, resources, because that's what Taurus rules. Taurus rules our money and our resources. And you can also look and see where Taurus is in your chart. And it'll probably also influence that house. Okay. And on this particular day, which the Juno and the Sun will trine the South Node while they are sextiling the North Node. So if you take a look there, the Juno and the Sun, and anytime something is interacting with the North Node, it will usually be interacting with the South Node as well. And so usually if it's trining one, it will be sextiling the other. And so in this case, that's exactly what's happening is Juno and the Sun, which I talked about being, and now Juno has moved into Cancer, right? So now we have definitely decided on our commitment. We're not doing any more wavering. We're not doing any more change up. Because in Gemini, people can change their minds about commitment, Juno and Gemini. But now that it's moved to Cancer, we're sure, okay? And they're both conjunct in early signs of Cancer, and it's trining the South Node. So it could bring up some old shit, but you'll work through it really easily. It will be a blessing, and it will help you move forward. So on this day, I suspect that we're going to feel very like, okay, I can let go of what happened and I can move forward into what should be tomorrow, you know? And so and you can see that trine is still super strong. The T-square is faded into the background really at this point, but that trine is kind of in our face, that grand trine in Earth. So it's still there and it's still strong. It's that bright blue triangle.
And then on the 23rd, the moon moves into Virgo, practical Virgo. So you notice now it's moved into an opposition with Saturn directly across.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so
And
now,
Saturn's retrograde, right? Okay.
right. So that feels a little on the challenging side. It's in a sextile with Juno and the Sun, and it's trining Jupiter, and that's going to go on for a little bit. But you can still sort of see, you have that cradle with the Sun, the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. You kind of go along those edges. And so, yeah, so there on the one hand, you have that trine with Jupiter, which feels like a nice big blessing because Jupiter's big energy. But on the other side, you have this opposition to Saturn, which anything opposite Saturn just feels challenging.
Could be a little bit of an emotional day. I will be grateful for that. The trine is still strong.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a little bit of an emotional day though, especially about practical ideas, practical feelings, things that feed into our everyday. And Saturn in Pisces, which is about rebuilding, and it's retrograde. So I think I went over when we started what Saturn retrograde is. So, it's going to be starting, is this really what you want to do? So you could be questioning your commitments. Now, the South Node sextiling the moon, I thought that would be really helpful in this because there could be something from your past that comes up that helps you rectify that opposition to Saturn. So if something comes up in the past where you can be like, well, in the past I was able to move past this by doing such and such, then do that such and such thing. And then also because Chiron is trining Lilith and Athena over there in the same area as the moon, Chiron is about overcoming wounds. So this could also push you towards healing those wounds. A trine is all about healing and bringing forth your healing, especially when Chiron is involved with strategy and independence, and maybe finding your independence, finding your empowerment. And the T-square is really fading in the background and the trine is really coming forward. So I feel like it will be a fairly decent week. And the biggest challenge is that Saturn retrograde is really your commitments and who and what are you committed to?
Yeah. Wow. All right. So then as we approach the weekend, Saturday, the 24th, the moon is still in Virgo, and now it's trining Uranus and Jupiter. And now we have a grand trine with the moon, Ceres, moon and Ceres. I'm not sure I say it right sometimes. And Vesta in Gemini and Pluto in Capricorn. So you have that Libra energy with Ceres, and the moon is obviously in Virgo. So yeah, Earth, Capricorn, Gemini, the Libra. So that one trine fades and another trine comes forward.
Right. And I'm not sure if that's actually an official grand trine because they're not all the same element, because Capricorn is Earth, but I see how it happens.
Yeah.
But with Vesta moving into
Libra, yeah.
Vesta's moving into Gemini, so don't be surprised if what you're committed to changes, or what you want to be doing changes, what fills your cup changes. And Ceres down there moving into Libra could be more about relationships, Are you honoring relationships in your life? Is that what feeds you, especially with Libra and Ceres? Are you nurturing your relationships? And it's still in opposition to Neptune. So
there you go.
So in your psychic abilities, And then, of course, Pluto down in Capricorn. And so all of these are going to be trined. So it's going to just come together in a good way.
Yeah.
And it might mean mostly that you start thinking of things in a better way, because that's air rules your thoughts and thinking.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Once again, the weekend energy holds a little easier, flowy trines, blessings. Things should feel a lot easier because, well, there is a square to Mercury. You have a trine to Pluto, you have a trine to Vesta, you have a trine to Uranus. This is the moon, of course, because I cover the moon. And all of that speaks of flowing energy.
Mhm.
And
I noticed that moon lit up this T-square, though. You see that T-square? You
Yeah.
couldn't even see it before,
But
and now
now,
all of a sudden
yeah.
you can see it again.
Yeah,
And that's because it's squaring Mercury up there,
right.
and Juno. And so I would just, be careful what you say. Be careful what you decide to do, especially when it comes to your hopes and dreams, especially with Lilith going retrograde. Lilith normally will lead you towards independence, but she's going retrograde. So she wants you to go in and say, is this really what I want? Is this really represent independence for me? Especially in Leo. So she's going to be asking a lot about nobility and things like that. So, and she's going retrograde in Leo on this day. So she just may have you inner reflecting about your independence, what you really want in the world.
And there you go.
Wow.
What do you think about all that happy solstice energy?
Wow. That's I'm like, whew, that's a lot. That's a lot. That is a lot. Which makes sense because we're going into the season of the woodpecker.
Oh,
The 20th. I think it's the 20th. And what do? They're like,
yes.
and
Hard-headed.
yes, they're hard-headed and they just keep going. They don't stop, and I think it's really important for us to realize what is the motive, because the woodpecker could be just drumming for the sake of drumming. It could be drilling a hole. It could be seeking a mate. There's so many reasons as to why the woodpecker pecks. So I guess just be careful. Why are you doing it? And why are you banging your head up against this hard surface? I think it's really important. I mean, but I did want to say, like, even though, like, with these spirit, we're not, I don't like calling them spirit guides or anything. I just say animal friends, with your animal friends, just pay attention to them and listen to them, because it's important. And you don't have to focus just on the woodpecker, because they're going to come in so many different ways, especially now that we're coming into the solstice and we're coming into the summer. They're coming out all over the place. So it's a matter of stop, pay attention, and listen to what they're saying. So, and don't bang your head against the wall.
I spent a whole summer with a woodpecker, and I ended up like looking it up. And the one thing that I remember, it was a long time ago, the one thing I remember the most was that they're resourceful.
Oh, yeah.
And I found it interesting that you were talking about it, and it pretty much starts at solstice time, which in, pagan and witch traditions, that's pretty much what the solstice is about. It's about celebrating your resources. Look, you finally grew some tomatoes.
Yeah.
You grew some zucchinis.
Yep.
Congratulations. There's more resources. There's more sun. The sun is at its height. So you got very full days. And that's pretty much what the summer solstice is about. And it's about celebrating what our resources are. And so I was thinking, I was like, oh, and doesn't the woodpecker, because I think the woodpecker is super resourceful. Apparently, like, if they don't find bugs in one tree or whatever, they'll be able to quickly find other bugs, and they will even go to like a fallen dead tree down on the ground.
They actually prefer them. They prefer dead trees over live ones because of, I guess,
of all the bugs.
All the bugs.
That's what they're eating.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're eating them, frankly, aren't we all?
Yeah, get
Thank
those
goodness.
termites.
Yeah, thank goodness. Right?
Yeah.
I've always said that bugs, like that's what I taught my son, is that nature, and that's what we learn in like paganism and witchcraft is that, it's a cycle of life. And I believe indigenous people teach a very similar lesson
Yes.
that, everything lives and dies. And this is all a big cycle of life, and you have to honor that cycle.
Yeah.
And that means, animals eat animals, and I know you love fish and everything, but the bear has to eat the salmon,
So it's
and
that continuing thing. And I think that's why it's important to learn from them, because their gifts, they have such priceless gifts to give us. And the problem is we got to stop and say, okay, what are you telling me? What are you telling me here?
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting summer that I lived with a woodpecker. He just kept pecking over my head, and I'd be like, wow, I have to look up what woodpeckers were. And that's what I remember is resourceful, is that I was also resourceful.
And it's also their way of singing, because they can't sing. Woodpeckers cannot sing, so they'll peck. And the drum, which Bright Hawk, I think you'll appreciate that. Drum is how they communicate and sing, is through their drum. So I thought that was really cool.
Beautiful.
I have totally felt that, because there's a woodpecker that visits here, and he totally has a rhythm and a vibe and a thing, and I'm like, why are you pecking on the house? You like the sound of it, don't you?
Yeah, they'll even hit metal. Yeah. They've been known to hit metal because of the sound. Yeah. I was looking up these facts, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is cool.
Yeah. And then I was like, I think I'm okay with it, because they'll eat any bugs, and the bugs would be worse for the house than them pecking. So yeah, they're definitely drummers. They definitely know how to roll.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
My. So do you have a reading for us, Hollis?
Yeah, I'm going to pull 3 cards that will help us recognize and navigate this week forward. So please take what you like and leave the rest. This deck is the Pride deck, and each one of these cards is done by a different LGBTQ artist. And this first card is pretty much about mental health. And it's a very interesting card, because typically we have a lot of cycles. And if you look closely at the cups, you'll recognize that there's little moons on them at different parts of their cycle, okay? And the idea is that we go through cycles, and we should take whatever's going on, whatever our dark, and if you notice, the cup that the person is holding here is actually is black, right? So it would be a dark moon. And I think that that's about going inward. And I think that's about, taking a look at ourselves and trying to recognize what it is that we did there. Like, what part of our mental health is at play here? What do we need to recognize about our mental health, and how that affects all the rest of them? Because one mental health piece, probably, the thing is that internally everything is connected with itself. Your health is connected to your mental health is connected to your emotional health is connected to your physical health, I promise, and even your spiritual health. So these are all connected together, and that's kind of also what this is about, is to recognize and to visit each piece as you can. Try to keep the cups upward, and it's about like holding that and holding each piece of our mental health with ease, I think, and with gentleness, and not being afraid to walk into our darkness and embrace our darker sides. Because when we're afraid of our darker sides, they come up when we don't want them to. And that's exactly what happens every time. So if you just embrace your darkness when it comes up, it will be easier to handle it later. And this here is the Four of Pentacles. If I can pick it up. This is about your resources and the show you put on to get resources. And that's pretty much what this is about. This is about the resources that come in, and sometimes, you know, I mean, he's putting on a show here, right? And that's pretty much what this is about. And he's displaying his resources, and literally resources like money. And sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. And that's, or things that are just pretend or show, you know. I've worked for all kinds of places I had to pretend to be something I wasn't. I'm sure you can identify with that. Most of us can. And that's pretty much, that's how it is to make resources, especially in today's world. And that's exactly what this is about. But to know you have those resources also gives you something to stand on, right? Because he has two resources under his feet, and that's pretty much what that's about. And notice he's sitting in a chair, which I also think has to do with like sort of allowing whatever show you have to look more natural, to just allow it to be what it's going to be. And, you know, even if it's not super you, but just being more relaxed about it. Okay, and so your mental health and financial things, what kind of show are you having to put on to handle your finances? And this is in the future. And this card is the Nine of Wands. And essentially this person is holding on, and there's lightning behind them, and that can be kind of shocking. Something shocking could come up. But also tending to our broken parts and being aware of our broken parts, but allowing the lightning to change us, right? Notice their eyes are whited over, and they have the moon cycles down here on their knee. And I'm pretty sure what this card is all about is about transformation. This is about allowing the lightning, because lightning transforms anything it touches, I promise. If it zaps a tree, that tree is now going to be black or something, right? You know, it changes anything it touches, and that's pretty much what this is about. And this is about allowing yourself to transform. So remember, as we put these three together, is that your mental health, you have to handle your mental health. Walk with your dark side, allow that dark side to come forth. See how she's holding that dark moon, and they're holding their dark moon there in their hand, and to stand with those mental health pieces, and to allow the mental health to come through, even the dark side, and allowing that to be, and being comfortable with, sometimes you have to put on a show to get some resources. And that's just the way life is, I guess. I'm not sure that's new to a capitalist world. It feels like there's always something, whether you're a farmer, whether you are a doctor or something, there's always some part of your job that could probably feel off or out of whack in some way. Even as an entrepreneur, even though I do mostly everything I want to do, there are still parts of my job that don't feel right. And this is it's saying there is part of your job that you have to do as a show. And that's what the Four of Pentacles is about. Putting on a show to bring that forth and to, you know, manifest whatever you need to do and try to look relaxed doing it, which is, I guess, is a gift all in itself. And then this is allowing for that transformation to happen and allowing for the lightning to strike down and change you. Allow that lightning strike to change you, to heal your broken parts, and for you to go forward with your new way of seeing things or your new way of doing things. Okay? Especially with the wands, it usually has a little to do with spirituality as well. Okay?
Very good. Very good.
Fantastic.
Good job.
Thanks.
There's a lot to digest and prepare for. It's going to be
Yeah,
an interesting week.
yeah, I think with Saturn returns, that kind of happens.
Yeah.
But I think it will calm down after a while. I mean, it's going to be retrograde. Sorry, not Saturn returns, Saturn retrograde. Yeah, you're in your Saturn returns, but Saturn returns too. But Saturn retrograde can sometimes feel kind of intense. And for people that are not in their Saturn returns, it will calm down. You won't feel it. You'll notice it. You'll notice it again if it aspects something in particular, but you won't. You'll feel it when it goes retrograde, and you'll feel it when it comes out, which will be in November.
Right.
Okay, but you'll feel it for like a week or two, and then it'll continue, and you'll get used to that vibe, and then you'll move forward. And I think even if it is your Saturn returns, I think that still kind of happens, but on a lesser level. You still kind of feel the vibration overall during the whole
Right.
time that Saturn is in the sign or the house that your Saturn is in. So if you're in your Saturn returns, or if you have the sun, if you're a Pisces sun, you're probably going to feel it the whole time.
Wow. Well, good luck for them.
Right. Hey, you'll get your turn.
I know. Mine's is coming. That's why I'm like trying to get prepared in every aspect. Well, I mean, I guess you can only be so prepared because like your emotions and you're a human being. So you're gonna feel it, So
And I'm not sure you can always like completely prepare, but
yeah.
sometimes I think like being aware.
Aware. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
like I'm in my Saturn returns, so this keeps coming up. So let me try to figure this out.
Right.
And how can I work through this? How can I, my Saturn returns was all about healing and coming into higher thinking. But my Saturn's in the ninth house.
Right.
So it tends to push me towards that, right?
Right.
Education. I went to college, and then I started doing yoga all the time. and and that's
Right.
and that, I started my yoga journey, and I really like sort of evolved past my trauma. So a lot of times Saturn is asking you to heal something, but it just in what way and how. So I think you just have to listen. I think you have to listen. And if you are in your Saturn returns, listen. And if Saturn's in Pisces, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be probably also be spiritual. And it can also be kind of psychic. And then I listened to Christopher Renstrom, and he was saying that Saturn Pisces rules timeless places, places that just have no time. So, consider that too. And even like Narnia, like places like that, right? Like dreamy places. And so think about how Saturn is affecting you in that way. So I would just, people like get afraid of Saturn, but Saturn didn't do anything but make my life better.
There you go.
So if you're in your Saturn returns, if you embrace the journey, don't resist. That's the hard part. When you resist, that's when it makes it hard.
Yeah.
That's when you get yourself a headache. That's when you piss everybody off, including yourself.
Yeah.
That's when it's not good. Just don't resist. Just instead sit with things. Make time to think things through, and don't be afraid to walk into your shadow. I think Saturn really usually asks you to walk into your shadow, and that's why people identify it as hard. You have to really walk with your shadow,
Right.
embrace it.
And it's not comfortable.
No, I don't think anyone's shadow is comfortable. I think everybody's shadow hurts.
Yeah.
Even if you're light and bright, and even if you're, it just doesn't matter who you are. I think the shadow is supposed to hurt. And everybody has a shadow. Everybody has an eighth house. Everyone has a shadow. And and I think Saturn really most of the time is asking you, what part of yourself are you willing to let go this time? I had to let go of my victim mentality.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
All right, my
that was
friend.
good. I
Enjoy the
guess.
rest of your week. Don't be afraid to reflect. Spend some time in reflection, revisiting, and blessings to you. Have beautiful pride. Have a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful pride. Please also share this, like it, tell your friends about it, especially people that are interested in learning astrology. We try to make this so that anyone can listen to this, even if you don't know a lot about astrology. The more you listen to it, the more you learn.
Yep.
And if you print your chart out and have it in front of you each time you listen, or look at your chart afterwards, you'll start to learn. Trust me. Even if you don't remember what square means, just Google it. Just put the astrological meaning of a square and it will tell you. And so if you're still learning, I really want you to learn. And so please ask questions and we'll answer them here to the best of our ability. No matter what platform you're on, you can email me, or you can just ask a question right on the platform. Especially if you're on YouTube or something like that, just make a comment and ask a question, and we'll do our best to answer it. Okay.
Thanks so much. We hope you have a great week.
See you next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoyed this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.